So now that we are done with picks 1 through 10 for first draft analysis, we're going to do picks 11 through 20. So starting off where we left off, we had the Giants with Eli Apple, and now going on to the Buccaneers who picked Vernon Hargreaves, which is probably who they would have gotten with the ninth pick before the Bears traded for him. So they got the same guy and they added a 4th-round pick with it. So I think I like the trade there. But what do you think about Vernon Hargreaves?
I was very surprised that even though the Giants still went with a cornerback, that they didn't go with Vernon Hargreaves. I think that the Buccaneers were extremely lucky because considering that a cornerback was drafted right before them, and Vernon Hargreaves arguably being the best corner available aside from Jalen Ramsey. I was surprised that the Giants didn't end up going with him. But one thing to note is that Eli Apple in his sophomore year had almost the exact same stats as Vernon Hargreaves did in 3 years. So it's actually the difference between the two of them isn't as drastic as a lot of people believe from Eli Apple only having 2 years. But I love the pick for the Bucs. What about you, Charlie?
Vernon Hargreaves was a very, very good pick because coming out of college, he was just a monster. I watched a couple of his highlights, and he just knows where the ball is going at all time.
He's definitely
He has great instincts.
Yeah. But I definitely think it's a good pick. And looking at the mock draft again, some mock drafts had him going 7th to the Buccaneers. So
You mean 49ers.
No.
49ers.
I meant wherever the Bucs were picking before they got traded back.
Oh.
And so even if they got him at the 11th pick, like all the way back down there, I think it was a very good pick.
I think too. So now moving on to the Saints, and this was kind of a no-brainer because they definitely needed a guy on the line, and a lot of people had him going. It was DT Sheldon Rankins. I think all three of us had, me, Jared, and you had him going there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
so there's not really much about like the Saints picking him, but what do you think about the player?
I absolutely love him. They're going to have a phenom at defensive tackle, and I think that he'll be huge stuffing the run and just helping their horrible defense for the future. What about you?
Well, they were lacking very much at defensive tackle. Even they have Cameron Jordan on the end, Cameron Jordan on the end, but to stop the run in the middle, that just is an amazing pick for them.
So then the Dolphins, I think, got the steal of the draft if he could clean up his act, and that is Laramie Tunsil at number 13. And again, with Laramie Tunsil, he lost a lot of money with this video coming out, and then there was also an Instagram post about him asking his coach for money.
Yeah, so he got hit twice.
It was insane how what's supposed to be the best night of his life turned into probably the worst because now he's got all these character issues about him, and if he can perform, he's going to be a great pick for the Dolphins because he was probably the best player in this draft.
I found out that both of those things that were leaked, those videos, they were leaked by his ex-agent trying to sabotage him. I don't know if that's foolproof, but that's what I heard at least.
Holding a grudge.
And I think that Laramie Tunsil, if like you said, if he clears up his off the field issues, that it'll be huge because he was the only one that could stop Joey Bosa. In college, whenever they went up against each other, he was pretty much able to handle Joey Bosa. So that's a great sign.
I think Laramie Tunsil was. I didn't really like him because after all those videos coming out. But what I also saw on Twitter was that that video was I heard it was 5 years old or something like that. It's still a problem, obviously, but it was a while ago, and I think that was a good pick for them, considering they lost that I can't remember his name exactly.
But on the guy on the line, yeah. I forget his name too. So moving on to the Raiders, and the Raiders maybe with a surprise pick. Because a lot of people had him going with offensive lineman or maybe a linebacker to make him and what's his name, Bruce Irvin and Khalil Mack. A lot of people had a linebacker going to him, so that linebacking core with Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin would just be insane. And that's who I had. I had a linebacker going to them, but then they just shocked everyone and they went for safety. A safety that many had going in the 2nd round. Yeah. And again, if you look at the player, he's a really, really good player in Carl Joseph, and you didn't really hear about him until before the draft because he just rose up draft stock because everyone thought that his injury would have hurt him, but then it became not really a big problem.
Mm-hmm. They noticed that. I noticed that when Mike Mayock gave the 3 things that you'd say one great thing about him, one question about him, and one bad thing about the player for all of them in the 1st round at least, the bad thing that was for Carl Joseph was, will he be similar to Brian Dawkins? I'm like,
amazing.
how is that? That's crazy. So that's a great sign for Carl Joseph. I think if he does pan out, it will be huge, absolutely huge for the Raiders defense, and could really propel them towards moving for a Super Bowl for sure.
A Super Bowl, wow.
Yeah, with Derek Carr getting better, Amari Cooper getting better, Latavius Murray, their offensive line's good, and now they got their defense starting to heat up. They could definitely start moving towards a Super Bowl in years
Bold
to
statement by
I
Nick.
definitely
You're a
absolutely.
5-11 team.
Absolutely.
I definitely see Carl Joseph being an amazing player in the future, because when I saw it, like that thing, like the Mike Mayock thing, they were actually comparing him to Brian Dawkins, that's
A Hall of Famer.
That's insane. He's a
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, amazing player, and the fact that he's getting compared to him has to be like,
It's
he's
crazy,
like
yeah.
the second coming of
Jesus.
And also, if you guys forget, Charles Woodson retired, so that was a good
yeah,
need.
that was a good film for.
Exactly.
So then the Browns, they probably needed a wide receiver. Maybe they could have gone anywhere with this pick, to be honest with you.
Pick anybody.
Yeah, so the Browns went with a wide receiver, and you would have thought it would have been maybe Laquan Treadwell or Josh Stockton, but they pick a small guy, a slot receiver, Corey Coleman.
I guess my logic here is to fill in for Travis Benjamin. Because if Josh Gordon comes back and is good, which is a long shot and could not smoke weed for more than the football season, then Corey Coleman could be a huge and great compliment. Corey Coleman is a great receiver.
Route
great
runner.
receiver.
Yeah.
Great route runner. He has if you could this guy could run 3 routes and make it look different every single time, and you'll never know which route's coming your way. And that's what's incredible about him and his route running skills. So I love the pick. I hope it works out.
His
But
only weakness is his small hands, yeah.
you have RG3 throwing him the ball, and if he doesn't throw him the ball, then they got something Kessler from USC.
Who's not going to be a starter.
Yeah, so I don't know. We're going to find out. I feel bad for this guy already. But,
I love Corey Coleman coming out of the draft. I remember me and my other younger brother always having fights on who was better, the guy from LSU, Malcolm something, I can't remember his name, or Corey Coleman. The Malcolm didn't come out this year, or Corey Coleman. And Corey Coleman would just always score touchdowns, and he would always have the upper advantage from me, because my guy from LSU just never did anything.
Corey Coleman
had at least, I'm pretty sure it was 5 touchdowns in the span of 2 games. It was something insane like that.
Yeah. So moving on to the Lions, they pick not really a surprise pick, Taylor Decker, obviously an old lineman, not really surprised there. Do you guys have anything about that? Taylor Decker?
I think Taylor Decker was a good pick. Kind of fit in with them because since their offensive lineman, and I had Matt Stafford on their offensive line was terrible, and I had Matt Stafford on my team last year for fantasy, and
that was killer.
Oh, it was awful.
Killer.
He had 5 points in 1 week, and I just watched the game, and he was getting sacked every other play, so it was just insane.
This was a great pick for them. They needed anybody on the offensive line. Absolutely, monumentally needed him. Whatever word you want to put.
And also another thing, when you're playing fantasy and you had to pick up a defense, you're looking for that bad offensive line, and usually last year that was usually going up either against the Browns,
the Colts,
or the Lions. So.
Yeah. So this was huge for them. I think it's a great pick, and I think it'll definitely be good for them in the long run.
So moving on for the Falcons, I think that this is probably the biggest surprise. I didn't like this pick at all, to be honest with you, because I didn't really hear about Keanu Neal. I thought he was a 3rd-round pick, and they probably thought they were going to get Carl Joseph, and then he got sidetracked because they didn't need a safety. But I don't know. I just don't know a lot about Keanu Neal to really talk about him. I thought he was going to be a 2nd or 3rd-round pick. I guess do you guys know anything about him?
I don't know much either. I don't dislike the pick at all because can you name the Falcon safety right now other than him? No. Can you name the safety? And neither can I.
I just know Desmond Trufant is
a cornerback. So they definitely, you can't say it wasn't a position of need. And if they could, hey, listen, they know more than we do. So if they could, whatever they saw, if they like it, then Listen, gets power to him. I thought they were going to go with Deron Lee, but then they ended up getting Deion Jones later on in the draft, which is a very similar player, just I guess not as good, obviously, but
So
I don't know.
I honestly think that Deron Lee would have been better than him.
I just looked up Keanu Neal, and he is 6'2", and he looks like he is pure muscle everywhere. This man is huge. I have never seen him play and never heard about him, but he just seems huge, and if it works out, it should be an amazing pick for the Falcons.
Okay, so now moving on to the Colts again. Not a surprise here. They had to go with O lineman, and the best one available was a center, Ryan Kelly, and not really a big. I don't really know much about him. He could play really any position on the O line, but they need him at center because ever since Jeff Saturday left, they don't have a guy. So that's not really a no-brainer for them. And do you guys have anything on him?
No, other than that, it's a great pick.
And like what I said before, when
Just
you're picking
helping
the
that line,
defense,
Yeah, because that team was soft.
Yeah.
So now the Bills come up, and you obviously those are going to go defense, and
this is
honestly,
a Rex Ryan guy.
Yeah, and honestly, if Reggie Ragland didn't have that thing with his heart,
I thought Reggie Ragland was going here for sure with this pick.
but then that thing with his heart came up, and you think, okay, maybe it's not him, then who else?
Someone with his aorta.
But, the Bills, Rex Ryan loves his Clemson guy, so he had to go with Shaq Lawson, who was also a great player, but now he's going to be gone for 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
So they obviously knew that. They obviously knew that before they drafted him, so maybe they love him, and maybe they can deal with that.
He'll be a playmaker for them in the future. I don't know if he'll be that much this year, but in the future, assuming his shoulder heals, he'll be good.
No, I'm not 100% sure, but didn't they lose Mario Williams during the offseason?
They lost Mario
So
Williams.
So this is a good fit in them. This is I said before. This is a Rex Ryan guy from Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very
good for the D line. Good for pass rush. And finally, we're gonna leave off with the Jets. And the Jets, I was screaming Miles Jack because we didn't know about Miles Jack's knee. We knew it was bad, but we didn't know it was that bad that he would fall out of the second round.
I remember pulling out my phone and starting to record, and I even said, it's going to be Miles Jack, ready? And then it said, the Jets picked Darren Lee, and I'm like, who in the actual is this man?
Yeah, so Deron Lee was a guy who is really a special guy on a defense because
very fast.
Because he again very fast. He ran a 4.3 4.40 or 4.4 40. I forget what it was. And he could play basically any spot on defense. He could play DN. He could play outside linebacker. He could play safety. He could play middle linebacker. He's just a guy that Todd Bowles will probably be in love with because he could just move him anywhere. And Todd Bowles was the guy who made up the position where Deron Lee is probably going to be put. It's called the money backer position, which is basically a hybrid of a safety and an outside linebacker and a DN. And he made that guy, Deion Buchanan, I think it was, in the Cardinals, and he became amazing. And now, I think, who's the guy for the Rams? What's his name?
Mark Barron.
Mark Barron. There's all sorts of guys. Subak Craven's going to become that guy.
Landon Collins is starting to become that
guy
for the Giants.
That's
Taylor Mays.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
A lot of guys are going into that position, and it's a really great position to be in because
and it destroys quarterbacks.
Yes.
Because you think that one guy, like a linebacker, slow on a slant route, and all of a sudden you got this guy running a 4.3 40 across the field. Yeah, so it definitely throws off quarterbacks.
Because really a strong safety is just a middle linebacker who's really fast.
Yeah.
So I like the pick for the Jets, but I kind of would have loved Miles Jack in that position.
Yeah, I would have loved Miles Jack even more than Darren Lee, but he runs a 4.3. Yeah. No, it's a 4.47.
Yeah.
And I love fast linebackers, so I think this is a great pick.
And yeah, so that basically wraps up for the second part of draft first round analysis. Now we're going to move on to the third part, which is picks 21 to 31.